More details about planned service fee adjustments at public hospitals. South Korea's Constitutional Court reinstates impeached Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. And in Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney calls a snap election for April 28th. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. The government will announce public hospital service fee adjustments tomorrow. According to sources, fees will go up, but to prevent too heavy a burden on those suffering from chronic illnesses, patients' annual medical expenses at public hospitals will be capped at $10,000. Mimo Singhai reports.
The government said they would place more public hospital resources on patients who are categorized as emergency, critical, and have financial difficulties. Sources say some service fees for these patients will be lowered, while the charges for other patients will go up. To avoid putting too heavy a burden on patients who need frequent service, such as those suffering from chronic illnesses, sources say authorities will set up a mechanism under which their medical expenses at public hospitals will be capped at $10,000 a year. Hospital Authority member Franklin Lam is in favor of the idea. Lam said the amount, $10,000, is about 2% of the median family income, adding it's unlikely a middle-class family would choose to stop seeking medical attention because of the increased fees. But he said the fee adjustments can benefit people who are diagnosed with illnesses like cancer because of an expanded safety net. Lam said at present, public hospital services are government subsidized at a rate of close to 98%, the highest in the world. Sources say the subsidy will be reduced to 90% after the changes. For the future A&E department fee, sources say patients will be charged according to their urgent level. While free service could be provided to critical and emergency patients, the charges for others could be raised from the current $180 to $300 or $400. Numbers 9, TVB News.
Premier Li Qiang on Sunday met with U.S. Senators Steve Daines and several top American business leaders. The U.S. delegation was in Beijing for the China Development Forum 2025. It's the first time an American politician has visited China since U.S. President Donald Trump took office in January. And it comes at a time of trade tensions with Trump's decision to impose heavy tariffs on Chinese goods. Daines, a staunch supporter of Trump, lived in Guangzhou and Hong Kong in the 1990s as an executive for Procter & Gamble. Li talked about the phone call between President Xi Jinping and Trump in January this year when Xi highlighted common interests between China and the U.S. He said there is no winner in a trade war and expressed hope that the United States will work with China in the same direction. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it has never received an asylum request from former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. Duterte was arrested on March 11th at Manila's main airport after arriving from Hong Kong. He was accused of committing crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court. Duterte was later taken into custody in the Netherlands. There had been speculation he had a bid to seek asylum in China rejected. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Guo Jiakun said the body has never received an asylum request from Duterte and his family. Guo asked reporters to carefully verify information and not easily believe claims made by so-called insiders. South Korea's Constitutional Court has overturned the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and reinstated him to the post of acting president of the country. Han briefly took over from Yoon Suk-yeol in December when Yoon was impeached for declaring martial law. Han himself then faced impeachment after failing to appoint new justices to the Constitutional Court. The same court, in a 7-1 ruling today, struck down the impeachment. Han said the court had made a wise decision. He asked for unity and said he will strive to maintain a stable state administration in the face of a trade war with the U.S. The court has yet to rule on Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment. Thailand's opposition today grilled Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra on the first day of a parliamentary no-confidence motion, accusing her of being unqualified for the job. The party also said Paetongtarn was taking direction from her father, billionaire former leader Thaksin Shinawatra. Thaksin is banned from holding office over conviction for conflicts of interest and abuse of power that kept him in self-exile for 15 years. One lawmaker said Thailand has a leader outside the system. Analysts say Paetongtarn is in a strong position with no signs of turmoil in her ruling coalition. She's insisted her government is not under anyone's influence, while her 77-year-old father says he's retired and only offers advice. New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called a snap election for April 28th. He said he needed a strong mandate to take on U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs and his quest to make Canada the 51st U.S. state. His main opponent, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre, says Carney is merely a continuation of his predecessor, Justin Trudeau. The election campaigns for both men are likely to focus on the threat posed by Trump. Nazvi Karim has more.
Over the past 2 months, Canadian politics have been upended by a man who poses a perceived existential threat to the country. U.S. President Donald Trump wants Canada to become the 51st U.S. state. That statement, along with heavy tariffs on Canadian goods, has caused a seismic shift in political sentiment. Where 2 months ago the unpopular Liberal Party was behind the Conservatives in polls because of rising prices and a surge in immigration, now Trump's rhetoric has shifted the narrative, with voters seemingly emboldened by renewed nationalism and more focus on who is best equipped to take on Trump. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney believes he is the one, given his financial background as a former head of the central banks of Canada and the United Kingdom. As he announced snap elections for April 28th, 60-year-old Carney, who succeeded Justin Trudeau this month, said he's ready to drop the gloves, an ice hockey reference when two players prepare to fight and stand up to Trump.
We are facing the most significant crisis of our lifetimes because of President Trump's unjustified trade actions and his threats to our sovereignty. Our response must be to build a strong economy and a more secure Canada. President Trump claims that Canada isn't a real country. He wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen.
His rival is 45-year-old Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, who Carney describes as Canada's version of Trump. Poilievre, whose party now marginally trails the Liberals in polls, is also talking tough on the U.S. president.
So whoever's the Prime Minister is going to have to, at some point, deal with President Trump. I will insist the President recognize the independence and sovereignty of Canada. I will insist that he stop tariffing our nation. And at the same time, I will strengthen our country so that we can be capable of standing our own 2 feet and standing up to the Americans where and when necessary.
The April 28th election sees 343 seats or districts up for grabs in the House of Commons. The party with the majority forms the next government. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Still ahead, the Palestinian death toll from 18 months of conflict with Israel said to have exceeded 50,000. And mass participation events at the 15th National Games provides amateurs in Hong Kong the opportunity to represent the city. Welcome back. Palestinian officials say Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip on Sunday killed at least 45 people. The officials also put the Palestinian death toll at over 50,000. That's from nearly 18 months of conflict with Israel. A hospital in southern Gaza was attacked as a senior Hamas figure was killed, while the U.S. continued to hit Houthi targets in Yemen. David Garrett reports.
An attacker in a vehicle hit several people at a bus stop in northern Israel before opening fire, killing a man in his 70s. Police officers shot and killed the attacker, calling it a terrorist attack, indicating they believe it was carried out by a Palestinian militant. Another week starts with violence, explosions in Gaza that are visible from Israel. It's been a week since Israel resumed its onslaught on Hamas, destroying a 2-month ceasefire. Earlier, a hospital on fire. A strike hit the Nasser medical complex, the largest in southern Gaza. Senior Hamas leader Ismail Bahoum was killed. Israel says it targeted Nasser because militants were there and blamed Hamas for using hospitals as cover. Dr. Sack says the surgery building was bombed. There are injuries among the crew. Significant damage is seen inside. An operating theatre has been destroyed. People were injured in a place where they went to get better. Bloodstains on the floor and concrete blocks litter the corridor. One worker says this is the last working hospital in southern Gaza. Meanwhile, the US has launched missile and airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen for the 10th day in a row. The capital, Sana'a, has been hit with casualties reported. There is little known about the targets, but the White House National Security Advisor claims they have taken out key Houthi leadership. Israel says they've intercepted long-range missiles fired from Yemen. Egypt, whose foreign minister met with his EU counterpart, has drawn up a new proposal to try to renew the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. Hamas would release 5 living hostages, including an American Israeli. Israel would allow aid-in and pause fighting for a week. Palestinian prisoners would be released. A Hamas official says indications are positive. But after a week of renewed fighting, Israel shows no sign of stopping. This explosion took place in Gaza City. Israel ordered an evacuation. No one was injured. The defense minister repeated Israel is trying to avoid harming civilians. The Gaza Health Ministry says 50,000 people have been killed since Israel's invasion in 2023. That is more than 2% of the population. Thousands more are missing. David Garrett, TVB News.
The Ministry of Civil Affairs said China has entered a moderate aging stage and expects the scale of the silver economy to continue growing over the next 10 years. Vice Minister of Civil Affairs Tang Cheng-pei made the remarks at a symposium during the China Development Forum in Beijing. He said by 2035, the portion of GDP related to the silver economy could rise from 6 to 9%. Samantha Lee reports.
The 2-day China Development Forum continued at the Beijing Diaoyutai State Guest House. Vice Minister of Civil Affairs Tang Cheng-pei said as the country's population gradually ages, China still has 10 years to prepare for such a demographic change. However, Tang said he sees opportunities that come with the silver economy. He said that by 2035, he expects the silver economy portion of GDP will rise from 6 to 9%. He said the central government will study and formulate a national-level plan as part of the 50th five-year plan. He added the plan will include integrated development of the elderly care industry in culture, tourism, health, sports, and other related fields. To deepen research on the silver economy, he said the government will introduce policies to support the development of elderly health care. Meanwhile, Financial Minister Lan Fo-an mentioned how incremental fiscal policy measures introduced since the third quarter of last year have driven industrial growth, consumer spending, and fixed assets investment. He noted in the first 2 months of this year, industrial output, retail sales, and fixed assets investments by enterprises grew by around 4 to 6% year-on-year, all of them surpassing growth rates from the previous year. He said this reflects a sustained upward trend in China's economic performance. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The 15th National Games is set to take place in November, with 23 mass participation events providing amateurs the opportunity to put on a Hong Kong representative team jersey. Celine Chan has more.
An enthusiastic group of masters of the amateurs gathered here at the Lai Chi Kok Sports Park, trying out their whole bag of tricks to fight for a chance to represent Hong Kong in the National Games. Family and friends were also there to show support, bearing witness to the magical moment when the duo stood out from the group and won themselves a chance to put on the Hong Kong representative team's shirts.
Both nervous and happy and extremely excited. Yeah, I'm really grateful that, my partner and I could win this and eventually going to represent Hong Kong.
The related sports associations will provide training to the winners of the athlete selection process. Mr. Ma shared that qualifying to represent the city was a dream come true, calling his journey a hell of a ride as he only submitted his team's application 20 minutes before the deadline. The badminton court is more than just a platform for budding young talent, but also a stage for brave dream chasers who have a bit more experience. Mass participation events were first introduced in 2017 as a move to promote sports for all. Including badminton, the upcoming National Games mass participation events cover 23 disciplines, with 19 of them being competition sports and the remaining 4 demonstration sports. Professional athletes, including retired ones, are not allowed to take part in competitions related to their professional sports or similar events.
Registration for other mass participation events, including bowling and broadcast gymnastics, is still open to the public. Residents who are interested in fighting for an opportunity to represent Hong Kong can visit the Leisure and Cultural Services Department and the respective sports associations' website for more information. Celine Chan, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.